Welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching the news tonight with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. Tada court convicts 6 of the 7 accused in the 1993 Mumbai serial blast case. Mustafa Dosa held guilty for conspiracy and murder. Abu Salim for transporting weapons from Gujarat to Mumbai. Meeting on a consensus presidential candidate ends inconclusively. Union Ministers Rajnath Singh and Venkaiah Naidu meet Congress President Sonia Gandhi and CPM's Yechuri, but reportedly discuss no names. CBI team records Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia's statement in corruption case. Preliminary inquiry relates to Delhi government decision to hire public relations company for PR campaign. US President Donald Trump likely to reverse former President Obama's policy with Cuba while retaining diplomatic ties. Trump may restrict business and reduce number of American travelers who can visit Cuba. A special Tada court convicted 6 out of the 7 accused in the 1993 Mumbai serial blast that killed 257 people and left 713 seriously injured. Key accused Mustafa Dosa and Abu Salim were convicted under charges of conspiracy and terror activities in the case. Meanwhile, the court has set the next hearing date on June 19 to decide dates for arguments on the quantum of sentence.
24 years after 12 blasts rocked Mumbai, a Special Terrorism and Disruptive Activities Prevention Act court held 6 out of the 7 accused guilty in the 1993 serial blast case. Mastermind Mustafa Dosa was convicted on charges of conspiracy and murder. Extradited gangster Abu Salim was found guilty of transporting weapons from Gujarat to Mumbai. Others who were convicted include Firoz Abdul Rashid Khan, Tahir Merchant, Riyaz Siddiqui and Karimullah Khan. However, Abdul Qayyum was acquitted of all charges. All accused were acquitted of the charge of waging war against the nation.
93 बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट में सेकंड पार्ट का जो जजमेंट दिया है उसमें कन्विक्शन 6 लोगों को दिया, जहां पे 7 लोग एक्यूज थे उसमें से 6 लोगों को कन्विक्शन किया है, आउट ऑफ विच 5 लोगों को सेक्शन 120 बी यानी कंस्पायरेसी के अंडर कन्विक्शन हुई है और एक को 3-3 टाड़ा के मुताबिक कन्विक्शन हुई है और एक अक्यूज को जो कयूम करके है उसको एक्विट कर दिया है। वजह ये थी कि जो ये बाबरी मस्जिद डिमोलिशन हुआ था उसका रिवेंज लेने के लिए ये सारा कंस्पायरेसी हैच की गई थी।
Meanwhile, the Tada court also acquitted Abu Salim of some initial charges. The 7 accused formed the second set in the blast case as they were arrested between 2003 and 2010. The Tada court convicted 100 people in the first leg of the trial in 2007, while 23 people were acquitted.
सेंटेंस टू बी डेथ ये हम लोग को सुनना था और मुझे मालूम है, मुझे खातरी है कि यही हुआ है एंड डेफिनेटली जो भी रिजल्ट आज आया है वी आर वेरी पॉजिटिव. वी रिस्पेक्ट टाडा कोर्ट, वी रिस्पेक्ट सुप्रीम कोर्ट. द डिसीजंस आर फेवर टू अस. दैट इज अ वेरी बिग पॉजिटिव थिंग.
The Mumbai blast killed 257 people and seriously injured 713 others on March 12, 1993. It was the first ever terrorist attack in the world where RDX was used on such a large scale after the Second World War. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, BJP formally began negotiations for presidential candidates after top leaders Venkaiah Naidu and Rajnath Singh met Sonia Gandhi and Sitaram Yechuri. The leaders, however, did not discuss any probable names for the post.
The first meeting between the government and the opposition on a consensus candidate for the president's post ended inconclusively on Friday. Union Ministers Rajnath Singh and Venkaiah Naidu met Congress President Sonia Gandhi briefly at her residence but discussed no names. Later, they also met CPIM General Secretary Sitaram Yechuri, who said the opposition parties will support a candidate with impeccable secular credentials.
व्यक्ति पर तो कोई चर्चा हुई नहीं. हम अपेक्षा करते थे कि रूलिंग पार्टी विपक्ष के नेताओं से कोई एक नाम करेगी या 2-3 नाम करेंगी, 3-4 नाम करेगी और उस नाम पे सहमति बनाने की कोशिश करेंगे, प्रयास करेंगे. तो ऐसा तो सरकार ने कहा कि अभी हमारे पास कोई नाम नहीं है क्योंकि उन्होंने अपनी पार्टी में ही अभी उसके निर्णय नहीं लिया है। तो जब उन्होंने अपनी पार्टी में ही नहीं इसके बारे में कोई निर्णय नहीं लिया है तो विपक्ष के साथ शेयर करने को कोई सवाल पैदा नहीं होता है।
वो आए, हमने कहा कोई आपसे पूछा जरूर, आपने कहा कोई है आपके पास जो प्रपोजल, तो उन्होंने कहा कोई अभी तक किसी नाम पे हम जो है तय नहीं किए। तो अगर खुद नाम नहीं तय किए हैं तो हम किससे सपोर्ट दें?
Venkaiah Naidu also spoke with NCP Chief Sharad Pawar and BJP ally Chandrababu Naidu on Thursday. While Chandrababu Naidu said he will support Narendra Modi's decision on the presidential nominee, Pawar offered no such assurance. 9 opposition parties, including the Congress, Left, NCP, SP, BSP, JDU and RJD, have maintained they will finalize their stand only after the BJP-led NDA discloses its candidate. The opposition has also made it clear that they will put up a joint candidate if the BJP fails to nominate a non-RSS candidate.
We in the opposition want consensus for President of India. That would be good for the country. Let us see what the government does. It will depend on government of the day, what Prime Minister Modi and his team decides.
नहीं, अभी तक कोई नाम तो ओपन किया नहीं, तो कंसेंसस कैसे बनेगी? हम सब ने एक शर्त रखी कि नॉन आरएसएस आप कैंडिडेट्स लाइए, जो पूरी कंट्री को स्वीकार हो, तो हम कंसेंसस पे विचार कर सकते हैं।
Earlier this week, BJP President Amit Shah constituted a 3-member committee to consult political parties, including the opposition, to select a consensus candidate for the presidential polls. So far, the committee has reached out to the Congress, BSP, NCP, TDP, CPM and the All India NR Congress. Friday's meeting came 2 days after a subgroup of opposition leaders constituted by Sonia Gandhi met to discuss the opposition strategy. Pranav Goswami's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the CBI on Friday recorded Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia's statement in a case related to the Aam Aadmi Party's Talk to AK campaign. Soon after, a blame game between AAP and CBI began, with the party calling it a political raid.
A CBI team visited the official residence of Delhi's Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia in connection with the corruption on Friday. Terming the visit a raid, the Aam Aadmi Party has accused the union government of playing political games.
दुर्भावना, बदले की भावना और नफरत की आग में डूबी हुई केंद्र सरकार आम आदमी पार्टी के खिलाफ काम कर रही है। ये इस बात का बहुत साफ संकेत है कि केंद्र सरकार की मंशा एकमात्र है, विरोधी पार्टियों को खत्म करो।
CBI had registered the preliminary inquiry in January this year on the basis of a complaint filed by the Vigilance Department of the Delhi government. CBI clarified that it was just a preliminary inquiry and not a raid on the Deputy Chief Minister's residence.
मेरी जानकारी है, आज CBI मनीष सिसोदिया का स्टेटमेंट रिकॉर्ड करने पहुंची है। ये CBI का एक इंक्वायरी का तरीका है और मुझे लगता है कि जो भी आरोपी है उसको जांच एजेंसियों के साथ सहयोग करना चाहिए।
A corruption case was registered against a campaign named Talk to AK amid an interactive session with the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal held on July 17th last year. Allegedly, a public relations company was given a proposal of 1.5 crore rupees for the campaign despite objections from the principal secretary. Anu Devan's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, farmers blocked traffic in various parts of the country on Friday as part of their nationwide agitation against the death of 5 cultivators in police firing in Madhya Pradesh. In Haryana, farmers gathered near Mohra in Ambala and blocked the highway by parking their tractors. There were similar protests in Rohtak, Sonipat, Hisar, Sirsa and Jind. In Rajasthan, farmers blocked the Ganganagar Hanumangarh highway. A group of 200 farmers blocked the national highway from Jhansi in Uttar Pradesh to Khajuraho in Madhya Pradesh. Meanwhile, farmer leaders met in New Delhi to map out the future course of action of the farmer agitation. The meeting under the banner of Indian Farmers Liberation Movement saw participations from 20 states. Farmers are demanding waiver of loans and implementation of the Swaminathan Committee report on payment of the minimum support price.
19 तारीख को फिर राष्ट्रीय किसान महासंघ की मीटिंग दिल्ली के अंदर होगी, जिसके अंदर आगे देश में इस आंदोलन को कैसे सिरे चढ़ाया जाए, कैसे किसानों की बात मनवाई जाए, उसके ऊपर फिर चर्चा हो।
तो हम लोगों ने केवल सरकार के लिए 2 बिंदु रखे हैं, और 2 बिंदु वैसे बिंदु हैं जो प्रधानमंत्री ने खुद वो अपनी मोहर लगाई है उसके ऊपर, क्योंकि देश का किसान बहुत क्लियर है कि मिनिमम सपोर्ट प्राइस प्रॉफिट के बिना अब नहीं लेंगे। दूसरा मुद्दा जो है वो है कर्जा माफी का।
The Gorkha Janmukti Morcha protest-led shutdown in the Darjeeling Hills entered the 5th day on Friday. The unrest prevented several tourists from leaving, even as violence spread across the hills after a raid at GJM President Bimal Gurung's residence on Thursday. The protesters set a healthcare centre and a hydel project on fire. Meanwhile, the Calcutta High Court asked Gorkha Janmukti Morcha representatives to appear in a case related to the unrest on June 23rd. Darjeeling is reeling under violence over Gorkhaland and introduction of Bengali language in the schools in the hills.
कल शाम में 4 बजे से इंतजार करें, 6 बजे तक नहीं मिला गाड़ी। अभी 3 बजे से बढ़ा हुआ है हम लोग, और पेट में चूहा कूद रहा है, खाने के लिए कुछ भी नहीं है।
कोई नहीं, पुलिस ने इनसे पूछा था तो कह रहे हैं कि अभी कुछ कह नहीं सकते, कुछ पता नहीं कब तक भेजेंगे, लेकिन हमारी ट्रेन भी है कल की।
Well, an Indian army soldier was killed in a ceasefire violation by Pakistan in Kashmir's Nowshera sector on Friday. The Pakistani troops used mortars, heavy automatics and small weapons. The Indian forces also retaliated. In a separate incident, top LET commander Junaid Mattu and his aide Muzammil were killed in an encounter in Kashmir's Anantnag district. A civilian was also killed during the operation. Mattu was carrying a reward of 10 lakh rupees on his head. He is among the top 12 most wanted militants in the valley. 5 civilians also received pellet injuries when they made an attempt to stall the ongoing counter-insurgency operation. While in another incident, 6 policemen were killed after terrorists ambushed a police party near Anantnag's Achabal area. Well, here's a roundup now of some of the other developments from across the country and nationwide. The US State Treasury Department declared fugitive Islamic State recruiter Mohammad Shafi Armar as a specially designated global terrorist. Armar is a native of Bhatkal in Karnataka. However, there are reports of his death in a drone attack. Commercial services of the Kochi Metro will be inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi tomorrow. Prime Minister will board the train from Palariyottam and travel till Patadipalam and come back along with other dignitaries on the mark of the inaugural ceremony. The principal advisor to the DMRC, E. Sridharan, will be among the dignitaries on the dais for the Kochi Metro Rail Services inauguration function. Well, DMK walked out of Tamil Nadu Assembly again along with its Congress allies and IUML after Speaker P. Dhanapal disallowed their plea for the second day. MK Stalin raised the issue of alleged horse trading of AIADMK MLAs a day after the matter rocked the Assembly, leading to eviction of DMK members ahead of the leader trying to raise an issue with legislators being in the news. Well, it's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Art arisen from a multi-hued cultural canvas. Tradition and cultural fervour dating back centuries. And encircling them all, there's a magic that awes. Embrace your nation's brilliant human warmth. Watch Colours of India, Sundays at 9:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
In our country, recycle or reuse of water is very less. There is a lot of possibility of recycling of water in domestic sector as well as in industrial sector. The estimates show that about 15% of our food production today is based on groundwater which is mined.
Watch Eureka with Dr. Sharad Kumar Jain, Senior Scientist, National Institute of Hydrology at Roorkee, only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, the European Parliament passed a resolution on Thursday condemning Pakistan for showing scant regard for human rights and the rule of law. The resolution also slams Islamabad for breaching international law by not allowing consular access to Kulbhushan Jadhav, who has been sentenced to death for espionage in the country. It highlights the case of Jadhav, who was sentenced to death in April 2017 by a military court without any access to consular services, in clear breach of international law. The resolution, which was adopted by a majority, also expresses deep concern at the alarming rate of executions in Pakistan following flawed trials. This includes minors and persons with mental disabilities. The resolution says some of the executions were carried out even as appeals were underway. Well, President Donald Trump is all set to announce his Cuba policy later tonight. In Miami, he is expected to reverse some of the changes that his predecessor Barack Obama made when he announced the U.S. was ending 5 decades of hostility towards the island. However, Trump is not expected to sever diplomatic ties, but he will fulfill a campaign promise.
US President Donald Trump might just reverse one of the major achievements of his predecessor, the re-establishment of diplomatic ties with Cuba. When President Trump announces his Cuba policy later on Friday, he will be fulfilling another one of his campaign promises.
I'm okay with working with Cuba, but we should have made a much better deal. We should have made a much stronger deal.
We are in the midst of a full review of all U.S. policies towards Cuba. The President is committed to an agenda of ensuring human rights for all citizens throughout the world. And as we review those policies in Cuba, that will be forefront.
Though diplomatic ties may remain, he is likely to dramatically reduce the number of American travelers who can visit Cuba. He will also prevent anyone from doing business with businesses run by the Cuban military.
As we know, the military is involved in well over half of the Cuban economy. So you have military holding companies involved in everything from luggage transport at the airport to provision of goods and services at the port terminals for cruise ships, buses, rental cars, hotels, marinas, etc. So they have an extensive reach throughout the economy, and if you're not allowed to do any business with military companies, essentially you can't do business in Cuba.
Trump's new policy will find voice amongst his supporters, who openly rejoice at the undoing of anything Obama did. But supporters of Obama's policy say it needs more time to work.
La nueva agenda del gobierno de los Estados Unidos amenaza con desatar un proteccionismo comercial extremo y egoísta. Impactará la competitividad de nuestro comercio exterior, vulnerará acuerdos ambientales.
Among the major changes for Americans is their travel plans. Under the previous rules, Americans could not travel as tourists, but were allowed to go under 12 categories of travel clubbed together under people-to-people visits. Trump is expected to scrap the category that allowed independent travel.
Con la adopción de esta declaración conjunta en el día de hoy, se elimina un detonante de crisis migratorias. Los Estados Unidos logran una migración legal, segura y ordenada desde Cuba. Se desestimula el tráfico de personas y otros delitos relacionados. Se pone fin a una política de doble rasero discriminatoria hacia los emigrantes de otros países y se promueve una cooperación de beneficio mutuo y para la región.
Even as the Trump administration claims that the new policy is aimed at punishing the Cuban government rather than harm ordinary citizens, it is inevitably going to end up doing just that. As the number of US tourists go down, Cuban business will suffer. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the death toll in the Grenfell Tower fire in London has risen to 30, even as authorities say it will climb to over 100. Police have launched a criminal investigation into what has become the worst fire tragedy in the country. Police have also admitted that it would be impossible to identify all of the victims of the tragedy. Prime Minister Theresa May has ordered a judge-led full public inquiry into the incident. The newly appointed minister in the Department for Communities and Local Government has also promised that every single family will be rehoused in the local area. Meanwhile, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince William also visited the Grenfell Tower, meeting volunteers, local residents and community representatives. They visited the Westway Sports Centre, which has turned into a relief centre for survivors of the tragedy. The local Grenfell Action Group says the tragedy could have been prevented if their voice was paid heed to earlier. It claims that last year, during a major £10 million refurbishment of Grenfell Tower, residents had warned that access to the site for emergency vehicles was severely restricted. Meanwhile, the explosion outside a kindergarten school gate in China on Thursday was caused by a 22-year-old man who died in the blast. 66 others were injured in a deadly explosion caused by a young school staffer with the homemade bomb in China's eastern Jiangsu province. However, there were no children or teachers among the casualties. According to the police, the suspect was identified as 22-year-old staffer who was suffering from psychological problems. The police also found bomb-making materials from his house and words "die, death and destroy" scrawled on his walls.
公安机关经现场勘查、调查走访、视频监控调取、物证检验和 DNA 比对等工作，
省市派出医疗专家44人到相关医院指导救治，针对每位受伤人员情况，分别制定了救治方案。
Let's now take a look at some more developments from across the world in Global Buzz. US President Donald Trump called for unity after a mass shooting left a congressman critically injured at a Republican baseball practice. Trump said Americans will not be intimidated by threats or assaults on democracy. He thanked members, staff and the crowd for supporting the congressional baseball game in a video message aired on Thursday. President Nicolas Maduro slammed US Vice President Mike Pence's remarks that held up Venezuela as an example of what happens when democracy is undermined. Terming the comments nauseating, he urged Latin American countries to condemn the US. Already suffering a severe economic crisis, Venezuela has been convulsed by clashes between security forces and anti-government protesters. Meanwhile, Russia has claimed that it has killed Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. The leader of the Islamic State group was reportedly killed in an airstrike that targeted a meeting of highest leaders in Syria. The Russian Defense Ministry said that the air raid on May 28 on the southern outskirts of Raqqa also killed about 30 mid-level militant leaders and 300 other fighters. The Foreign Minister of the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, thanked the US for taking the lead in strengthening America's relationship with its key regional partners. He also accepted US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson's offer to diplomatically resolve these threats for broader regional stability. Well, let's now shift focus and bring you up to speed with some news from the world of sports and Sports Beat. 12 Indian basketball players will be part of an elite group of 73 players who will be trained by professional NBA players and coaches. The young hoopsters will stay in Hangzhou in China from June 18 to 21st. They were shortlisted from 21 players of the NBA's academy in India and will join cadres from China, Australia, New Zealand and Korea. AC Milan goalkeeper Gianluigi Donnarumma turned down a new contract after his current deal expires in 2018. Donnarumma has announced his decision on Thursday after talks that included his agent Mino Raiola and the club. Raiola said Donnarumma was quite clear he will not renew his contract. Cristiano Ronaldo, who has been with Real Madrid for 8 years, will leave Spain and his team after tax fraud charges. Despite Real Madrid backing him, Ronaldo said he was unhappy to be in the Spanish capital and has told the Real Madrid president that his decision is irreversible. Well, that's it on this newscast. Good night.